Morning, Alison. Morning, Duncan. Oh, yes, we've got your Facebook up. See who's on there. Two minutes, folks, I'll be right with you. Or 2 seconds. Morning, Steve. Morning, Eagle Rider. Morning, Fiona. Morning, me bub. Jane. Here we go. Let's see who's on Facebook as well. Morning, Tina, Mags, Melanie, Sandra, Nancy, Lorna, Jill, Stephen, Sandra. Numbers are climbing nicely, folks. Morning, Hammy Cooper. Morning, Last Braveheart. Morning, Audrey. Morning, Reverend of Wrestling, Jim Campbell. Morning, Ruth. Morning, Vince. Hello, Elizabeth. Are you still in Gran Canaria? Aye, yeah. Nice and sunny there, lovely. Morning, Alexander. Morning, Stevie. Adele. Morning, Hugh. Right, that's me and the 100 of you on board, so let's get this broadcast underway. It's Andy Truck Davey, at the truck, not home, in his office in Southern North Lanarkshire, where at this point in time, it's a lovely morning, a wee bit chilly, about 5 degrees. Okay, that's the weather forecast for Southern North Lanarkshire. You want to know what the weather's like with you? Look at your rain, bloody Monday. Remember, folks, we'll go to Super Chat active. If you buy a Super Chat, if you send us a Super Chat, any funds raised will go to food banks here in Scotland. Okay. But only buy a Super Chat if you can afford that. All right. Now, let's get today's news review underway. This is the news review for the 24th of the 1st, 2023. There was a lot going on yesterday. Very hard to keep tappy it all, and certainly couldn't put it all in here. But I hope you enjoy the subjects I've picked out of the news yesterday to talk about. Okay. So Tuesday started with 2 major themes in the rags. Fire at the old general store in Edinburgh sees 7 firefighters injured and 1 in intensive care. And we wish that person a speedy recovery. We'll get a wee bit more of that shortly. Thanks, Alison. You must be minted, sir, the way you throw super chats about. Also covered in the rags, 2 investigations launched into Tory sleaze. Prime Minister launches probe into Nadine Zawawi's tax avoidance via independent advisor on Ministerial Code, Sir Laurie Magnuson. All right. And the Public's Appointments Committee to look into the appointment of Richard Sharp as chair of BBC. The inquiry was launched after it comes to light that Mr. Sharp helped Bojo the Clown secure a large loan while he was Prime Minister. The accusation is the appointment stinks of cronyism. All right, so we've got two inquiries into sleaze going down that road, but there should be more. The Russian reports are about to blow up in their faces as well. And it also comes to light, we'll get to that, all right. Also in the rags, ex-PM Bojo the Clown pens a headline story in the Mail, right? And he's wanting the West to change, thanks Stuart, he wants the West to change their strategy towards Ukraine and to offer up offensive weapons to Ukraine apart other than defensive weapons. Now, we know they're sending them tanks, but you can see tanks get either way. The Germans have just agreed to send them tanks and all. The Leopard 2, the finest tank in Europe, actually. But, you know, you can dig a tank in and make it defensive, but it's basically an offensive weapon. Now, that's not good. A change in strategy for helping the Ukraine defend itself to help the Ukraine win this war and go on the offensive could see the conflict widen out because Putin could see it as aggression from the West. So, Bojo's in Ukraine making promises, thanks Alexis, making promises that he can't keep. He's no a government official anymore, he's a backbench MP. and making pledges that the UK will shake the magic money tree and supply weapons for as long as needed. Naked. All right. What else is in the act? The Nationalist says 84% of Scots want an end to union jackery on Scotch products and produce. So basically, we don't like them putting that butcher's apron on our products and produce because we have higher standards, and it's about protecting brands. Right, moving on. Tuesday started here in Scotland with the First Minister calling Alistair Union Jack, the Governor General of the Colony of Scotland, a coward as he refuses to come before two Holyrood committees to explain himself vetoing the GRA. Because it is within the competence. Hi, John, thanks very much for that. And for you too, Brian, really, thank you very much for that. It is within the competence of the Scottish Parliament, and it is a devolved issue. Now, Mr. Jack says he does not answer to Holyrood. He represents our imperial master in Scotland. What he actually means to say is Holyrood answers to him. He doesn't answer to Holyrood. All right. So expect more interference in fully devolved matters as our imperial masters rip up a devolution settlement. In the past week, Westminster has started bypassing the devolution settlement. Firstly, Union Jack issues his veto on the GRA, and Westminster started direct funding into Scotland against the agreement in the 1998 Scotland Act that says funding for infrastructure should go to Holyrood for Scottish MSPs and ministers to decide how it's spent. So devolution's over, folks. We'll get a wee bit more of that later in the report as well. The era of devolution has come to an end. Westminster is trampling all over the settlement. Direct funding is not supposed to be allowed. And vetoing something which is in the competence of the Scottish Parliament just shows the imperial masters' willingness to put their boot down on their necks. Okay, right, also Tuesday here in Scotland, Tory branch office manager of our imperial masters, Douglas Ross, MP part-time, MSP part-time, SFA linesman part-time. He's finally lost the plot and he accuses the BBC in Scotland of pro-SNP bias. Oof. I guess he isn't seeing the same coverage that the rest of Scotland is seeing. Right? So it's a nurse case. Dross is off his meds and off his nearly empty head. So Dross claims pro-SNP bias is why Scots don't trust or watch the BBC. Never heard so much crap in all your life. The reason why Scots don't trust or watch the BBC is it's an instrument of our imperial master. It is our imperial master's propaganda outlet in Scotland, along with some of the mainstream media rags. Okay, also Tuesday, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says Sunak should sack Zawawi after Sunak refers Zawawi to an ethics advisor. The First Minister says every time we think the Tories hit rock bottom sinks to new lows. I have to say the First Minister's got style. Right, moving on Tuesday. An NHS Grampian, he slapped down Tory MSP, Dr. Sanders Gilkenny, and his claim that the board had a man wait 5 years for a scan. You remember this was big right across all the papers. NHS Scotland wait 5 years for a scan. We're talking about stats about one guy apparently. As it turns out, NHS Grampian, the board where this is supposed to have happened, have had a good long look at the records, had a look at the data that was providing the freedom of information to Mr. Gilkenny, and they have said it's a bogus story, never happened. I said that at the time, if you remember. Bogus bogus story didn't happen. Well, now the Health Board has went through all its records and looked at the information that the Tories asked for in the Freedom of Information, and they have come to the conclusion that either Dr. Gulhane deliberately misinterpreted the figures, or he was too stupid to understand the figures. I'll leave it up to you what one you think it was. Personally, I think Mr. Gulhane was just too stupid to read the figures properly. Because for all he's a GP, he doesn't come across as the brightest. Stop posting my phone down, I'll post Facebook for a moment. So there you go, folks. That story that was splashed all over the newspapers and brought up in the House of Commons to slag our wonderful National Health Service was bogus and made up by the Tories here in Scotland. Although, you know what they say, a lie's got its boots on and it's halfway across the nation before the truth's got its slippers on. Sorry about that, Ali. I can't help you there, mate. Right, moving on Tuesday. And moving on Tuesday. An Open Democracy's latest publication says Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will, in the Treasury as Chancellor, help the warmongering group, Wagner Group, bypass sanctions that were placed on them to sue a British journalist who runs the Bellingcat online news site or news outlet. Now, the Wagner Group is a trans-international criminal organisation and is also a private army operating on behalf of the Russians in Ukraine. The Wagner Group, well, if you don't know, are just basically Nazis. Anyway, apparently, our now Prime Minister allowed the Office of Financial, the Office for Financial Sanctions Implementation, he allowed them to issue a license to discrete law to bypass the sanctions that are supposed to be in place for Russian oligarchs. The particular oligarch in question was, there it's here, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and he is one of the heads of the Wagner operation, and he was having a go at Mr. Higgins, who owns Bellingcat, in the British courts, even though Bellingcat operates out of the Netherlands. He was having a go at Mr. Higgins in the British courts because they'd been outing the illegal activities of the Wagner Group, who have killed thousands of people worldwide, furthering Putin's aims. Now, as I say, Rishi Sunak allowed the Office for Financial Sanction Implementation to issue a license to discrete law to work with CLP from St. Petersburg to try and gag Bellingcat. So scandal galore. The little known Office for Financial Sanctions Implementation under Sunak was undermining the very sanctions that they were posting about Putin on the Russians. Anybody surprised here? They gave the oligarchs 3 weeks to shift their money, a warning that sanctions were coming. And now they're issuing licenses to bypass sanctions. And we know they were also taking Russian oil for tankers onto UK tankers and allowing it to be sold onto the international market when it was supposed to be sanctioned. A criminal cabal is the correct description for these spanners. Anybody wants to read that whole story, by the way, it's on my timeline. I think Robert Bruce sent it to me. Right, also Tuesday, Landsec, moving on Tuesday, and back here in Scotland, the Futures Forest Company gets the go-ahead to plant 300,000 trees on the done yet, estate in Stirlingshire, which it bought earlier this year. Now, the Future Forest Company will plant indigenous broadleaf trees and Scots pines. The company will also take on, thanks Sandy, the company will also take on biodiversity schemes to improve biodiversity, the brown butterfly and some sort of fly as well, so they're going to insects as well. So they'll start planting in the spring, and heavy machinery will be moving in and out to clear the land and to put up deer fence so that the young saplings have got the best chance to survive. Aye, what did you, Robert? Aye. Okay, moving on. Tuesday, in Landsec and Vale's latest 850 million plans for Buchanan Galleries in Glasgow. Landsec have been working with Glasgow City Council over plans to redevelop the site. If planning permission is received, and I can't see why not, because they'll be working with Glasgow City Council, and shovels will hit the ground in the first part of 2024. And creating 410 construction jobs, the 3-year construction period, but the redevelopment will go on for a decade. So once they're finished the building, Glasgow City Council will then start to redo the streetscape round about it, and they reckon the whole lot will take about 10 years. Thanks, Jim. That's awfully generous of you. Right, moving on. Tuesday, and the latest A&E waiting times figures are out, and they show an improving picture week on week. The weekend on the 15th of January, 20,580 people attended accident emergency. 64% were seen in the allotted 4 hours. An improvement of 6.8% on the week before. On the weekend on the 8th of January, the figure seen within the allocated 4 hours to be treated and admitted or treated and sent on your way was at 57.2% of patients. So an improvement of 6.8% per a week. That's no bad. And as the weather clears and the winter flu subsides, the numbers will shoot back to normal. So it would appear that the Health Minister and the First Minister were absolutely correct. It isn't a crisis or a national emergency, it's just pressure from winter. Okay, right, also Tuesday here in Scotland, Deputy First Minister John Swinney writes to Kevin Holloway, UK Minister of Enterprise, Market and Small Businesses, to set out Holyrood's opposition to the Minimum Service Bill. John says it must not apply in Scotland, where most services affected are a devolved matter: education, health, and transport. They're all devolved matters. The only one, the sectors that they want to put this in, borders control, that's no a devolved matter, although they want us to pay for it. It's Stranraer. They want it to come out the Scottish budget in Stranraer, even though it's a reserved matter. All right, so John says this would be another trampling over of the devolved settlement if this bill is imposed on Scotland. Now, I imagine that Mr. Hollenrake will just shrug his shoulders and say, "Suck it up, Buttercup, we don't give a shite. You'll do what your imperial masters tell you. And we'll interfere in devolution if we want. And Scotland's got 2 governments shite. It's imperialism being imposed. It's oppression of the free will of the Scottish people." Need dollar signs in your phone keyboard, Dahlstrom. How do you manage it then? Right, moving on. Tuesday, in Scottish Ambulance Service crews say they are treating and taking more people to A&E because they felt ill because they can't heat their houses and they can't feed themselves properly. So, there you go, folks. Thanks, Chris. I tell you not to hear that, boy. Thanks, Chris. As I say, I tell you not to hear do that, boy. What's happening, folks, is people are not being able to keep their houses and they're not being able to feed themselves. So they're going to hospital with malnutrition and cold-related illnesses. The two people were interviewed. Two people were interviewed for the Glasgow ambulance service. Their names are on the story, but I didn't think it was relevant because that's where all the crews. But what they're saying is at the weekends they're taking people into hospital with malnutrition and cold-related illnesses, and when they go to pick these people up at their houses are like blocks of ice. This is a human rights issue. Where human rights have been flouted by the electricity companies and by the government in Westminster. The right to peaceful family life, the right of education, the right of heating, lighting, and food are all in the Human Rights Act. We find ourselves living in a place with no rights left, which brings us on to the Bill of Rights, which has been proposed down that road. Thanks, David. That's the 2 years made a nation to the pot now. Anyway, that brings us on to something else that happened yesterday down that road in the House of Thieves and carpetbaggers. Right? And that is that Rishi Sunak has been advised by a cross-Commons committee to drop the Bill of Rights. Now, when that was proposed while Bojo was there, peer character lying on the sides, raising his arms while saying, "How's it going?" Thanks very much, Free Scotland. Thanks for your contribution. Anyway, where was it? Anyway, this cross-party committee tells Sunak, drop it. It impinges on too many human rights. So, will we drop it? Will we introduce the British Bill of Rights, and which will affect all your human rights? Aye, that's my guess. Right, moving on. And apparently gender hate crime is on the rise in Scotland. In 2014-2015, there was 54 gender-related hate crimes recorded. In 2020-2021, that number had climbed to 110 recorded incidents, and by 21-22, the number of recorded incidents were at 105. Oof. Fair character doing the classic mic drop. Thanks, David. Anyway, I see you've worked it out, Mr. Milligan. Now, you've got to remember the GRR has been on the talking on the books to come to this point where Jack has vetoed it. It's been on the go for about 5 years, and it appeared that during that 5-year rise, or a consultation to get to the final bill, gender hate crime has went up. It would appear that actually trying to improve the lives of LGBT people, then hate crime against them has went up. I find that horrendous. It would appear that this bit of legislation appearing on the books has really angered the transphobes, and they have started to misbehave, not in a good way. Right, also Tuesday, Governor General holds talks with Scottish Justice Secretary Shona Robertson. He tells Miss Robertson he won't back down and he won't withdraw the Section 35, but he's willing to have our Imperial Master's top legal ego in Scotland look at any amendments they may make to the bill so that it can go forward for royal assent. So basically what Jack told Shona Robertson yesterday was, you can try amending the bill and bringing it to me. I'll lend you the Advocate General for the UK's Advocate General in Scotland, and he'll tell you what you can and can't do. And then if he says it's all right, I'll have a look at it again and decide whether or no you can have this bill go for royal assent. Basically, dictatorship from the Scotland office. There you go. Dictatorship from the Scotland office. So the book's really starting to get down with legs, folks. We're going to have to fight it. We're going to have to fight it. Now, let's have a wee look and see what the rags have got to say this morning, shall we? Because time's getting on. What's the rags got to say for themselves this morning? Scotland's paper. Stroke risk warning and plea over bullying epidemic. A bullying epidemic? What's a bullying epidemic for? Right, Scots are third more likely to suffer stroke than the rest of UK. Aye, sure we are. Aye, wonderful. And apparently Flynn's piles pressure on PM to fire, so aye, I heard it. And the AI brings alive work of a robot burns. A robot burns. Very good. Oh, aye, it burns 99, isn't it? Right, the Daily Rancid has bullying epidemic must be stopped. An open letter sent to Sturgeon asking for new law to tackle wave of youth violence. Youth violence? Domestic order incidents are at the lowest in 40 fucking years. Did he make this stuff up? Wow. The Herald has thousands at risk over eviction ban loopholes. Tenants could face homelessness despite government emergency moves. They better look at it again then, hadn't they? The Winnie Rag the Express has transgender rapist is sent to women's prison. Folks, that about the story of the guy that raped 2 women before changing his sex to being a woman. Now apparently all the medical assessments say this guy knew that she is a woman, or recognise herself as a woman. Then apparently the medical experts say she is no longer a threat. I don't know whether that's true or not. Maybe be the hormone thing. I don't know. Right, the Metro has trans rapist guilty. The Sun has tattooed trans monster caged. Fury after sick brute sent to female prison. He was given the certificate. I'm sure they'll keep him separate. Or her separate. I don't know. This is a bit beyond me. Right, the ICE says Treasury rules out tax cuts after being surprised by UK's record borrowing. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt's surprised by extent of spike in public borrowing. Understands caused by government capping energy prices. That's one last lot of crap. They wanted to really cap energy prices. They just signed a bit of legislation saying this is the maximum you can charge, end of. It will tell MPs that the Treasury cannot afford to cut taxes in budget on 15th of March. Well, they expecting it to. In fact, even when tax rises, even when nothing changes, the amount of tax increases. Treasury sources say it was way higher than expected, with 27.4 billion borrowing last month, including 7 billion energy bill support and 17 billion interest payments. What are we giving them support for? Cap it, give them nothing. Hunt expects to keep the current rates of income tax, national insurance, VAT, corporation tax, tobacco duty, stamp duty, inheritance tax, and windfall on energy firms. Only significant cuts considered is scrapping the scheduled rise in fuel duty. So we're talking about budget in March, we're in January. Talk about diversion. Right, the Scottish Daily Field, the other loony rag has Great Britain's favourite paper on your table or mobile for just a penny a day. Wouldn't they wipe my arse with your paper? Anyway, what's it got? Azure debt hits terrifying record. A stark message to Chancellor. 2.5 trillion reasons UK must go for growth. Grow where? Wow! Talk about filling people's eat me pish! We don't manufacture it in the rest of the world want, and the stuff that we did manufacture was to cater for our biggest market, the European Union. The rest of the planet's not going to pay for the standards that we produce it. Things like this talk about growth and economic recovery, it's just no there. Get yourself set for a decade of decline. And yesterday, by the way, one of the stories that I couldn't cover in 45 minutes with a 40 city and my usual 30-minute show time was that 2/3 of UK small businesses are on the brink of collapse. And the way they measure it in England is if you get a county court judgment against you for a £5,000 debt that you haven't paid or paid too late. And apparently 57% of small businesses in England have that right now. They're in last chance saloon. The economy's about to collapse. And these spanners are talking about growth. Who are we going to fucking sell to? What are we going to sell them? With the trade deals, nothing. Little England has set us all into isolation in a big world. Well, nobody wants to know Little England. The Times has, economy is failing to bounce back. It's no fucking bouncing back at all. We're in a recession heading for a depression. Wow! The Daily Telegraph has hammer blow for Putin as Ukraine gets tanks. We'll see. We'll see if it's a hammer blow. The National has majority say they'd back Indy and de facto UK votes. So there you go. That's quite positive, isn't it? And who's financing all these Alpha Party adverts? Must be somebody in the background with a big wallet doing this, because 6,000 members are not raising that amount of money for an advert in the National every day. What's interesting is these adverts don't seem to be making it into the public consciousness because there's still no shifting in the polls. But keep going, Alpha Party, it's good for you. What else we got? Let's see what the stars go for us today, shall we? And the Daily Star of Scotland has cyber boffin alerts over smart gadgets. Is there a Chinese spy in your fridge? check your doorbell and laptop while you're at it. So apparently any electronic equipment that we're buying from China is spying on us. There you go. That's it. Then you throw the mobile phone in the bin. Okay, folks, that's what I've got for you today. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it informative. As I say, there's an awful lot going on yesterday. I managed to throw in a couple of stories that I wanted to throw in, even though I hadn't written the ledger, because I only get so much time in the show, alright? Now, as I say, that's what I've got for you today. Support the independent media, support Broadcasting Scotland, Independence Live, Indie Live Radio. Caledon Media, Trues Radio, the iScot magazine, and the national newspaper. And I've got a crowdfund about it, and you can afford to throw something in the pot, and please do. As you know, we've just started a charity fundraiser on our YouTube channel to help with food banks, and because they're getting walloped at the moment as people have less and less in their pockets, they can't buy food to donate to food banks. So hopefully collectively, for very small amounts, we'll be able to make good progress in helping local food banks across Scotland. I thank you all very much for your generosity. Right, remember the last couple of bits of guidance, folks. Clean hands and surfaces, and mask up in enclosed public spaces, especially if you've got a cold or a flu or a sniffle. Be considerate to your friends, your families, and neighbours. All right. Now, eyes on the prize, folks. It looks as if we're in the polls anyway. It looks as if we're starting to make real inroads here. Keep your eyes on the prize. Right. When it comes to discussing the subject of independence, put your party politics in your pockets and discuss the real issues, the ones that people want to know about, like currency, like borders, like international trade, like internal market type thing trade, that sort of thing. All right. And if you want to know the answers to all the questions, I did a How You Gonna video a wee while back. You'll find it on YouTube. I think David stuck it on the side somewhere. All right. Now, look after yourselves. PMQs is about to start. Unfortunately, I've got to torture myself with that Punch and Judy fucking show every week. So we're off to torture ourselves with another Punch and Judy show. You guys have a nice day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. The two Davies show probably going to go half an hour late on Thursday. David's got another medical situation that has to be dealt with first. Okay, but it will definitely be going ahead on Thursday. All right, so look after yourselves. And happy Burns night. Enjoy your haggis, meats and tatties, and hey, a wee hoff. Bye for now.